adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of June the 12th. Councillor English, Councillor Orlando, all those in favor? Motion carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes of those council meetings of June 12th? Yeah. What I'd like to do is I want to go to the delegation presentation, but before I start that, I just wanted to let the audience know here that if you were coming today thinking that we were going to be dealing and talking about making motions about development cost charges, that was never the intent, and the development cost charges are going to be coming to the council meeting of July the 10th. So I am going to briefly talk about DCCs in my mayor's announcement, but other than that, there is nothing on the council agenda today for development cost charges. Okay, just wanted to be clear. Mr. Crawford, you are here for the Community Forest Corporation, and if you would like to come to the podium, it's great to have you here, Mike. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So my name is Mike Copperthwaite. I'm the General Manager of the Revelstoke Community Forest Corporation, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come and make a few comments. And I'm doing these comments to you on behalf of the Revelstoke Community Forest Corporation Board. And I want to recognize Mayor McKee, Councillor English, Councillor Orlando, and Councillor Brothers are all on our board of directors, as well as we have 3 other members at large for the community. So I'd just like to give a quick, brief history of RCFC and what's happened. So in the late 1980s, the city was advocating for more wood processing in the community. And at that time, there was an opportunity that became available to the city to purchase a tree farm license. So back in the day, back in the 90s, thanks to Jeff Battersby, who was mayor at the time, and I believe Mark was also on council at the time, as well as staff of the day, took a lead and did a lot of hard work. And with 3 industry partners, and those industry partners still exist in the community, Downey Timber, Joe Kozak Sawmills, and Cascade Cedar, got together, created a proposal that they brought to the citizens of Revelstoke, had public hearings, and this is all happening in the early 90s, 92, 93. The community undertook a referendum, and 78% of the population who voted were in favor of creating a new corporation. So in 1993, RCFC was created. So since then, a few successes we've had was recognized early on by the provincial government that RCFC was a success story. In fact, in the 90s there was only one other community that had any form of tenure, and that was the Mission Tree Farm license. So using RCFC as a model, they created in 1998 a new form of tenure under the Forest Act called the Community Forest Agreement. And today there's actually 57 communities now that hold a form of tenure agreement. So creating more control of local resources. So in the last 24 years of operation, some of RCFC's accomplishments have been we've harvested over 2 million cubic meters of wood on 4,600 hectares. We've planted more than 12 billion seedlings. We have no backlog plantations, so that means everything we've planted is successfully growing. We've completed 2 forest practices audits. Forest Practices Board is a form of government that audits companies to see that their practices are sustainable and that they're living up to the legislation. In 2006, we agreed and signed on to an independent third-party auditing program called the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. So since 2006, we've been certified to that program. It's the largest certification program in North America. Another thing that we got involved with that we're proud of is we were founding members and partners in the Revelstoke community, the Revelstoke Caribou Rearing in the Wild. And that's a maternity pen where we capture pregnant caribou. The calves are born in captivity and kept for about a month till they're strong enough to be released, and that's to help try and increase the population of wild caribou. So we've participated in that, and we probably contributed over $100,000 of in-kind support to that project. So today, RCFC is well positioned. We're debt-free, which is important. As you know, forestry is a cyclic industry. Back when I started as general manager in 2008, our prices we were getting for logs was about $89 a cubic meter. Today, very good markets, we're getting about $130 a cubic meter. So we do expect those will again drop at some point. The corporation is well funded. We've had retained earnings of over $5 million. Annually, we spend about $6 million in the community, hiring local contractors in logging, silviculture, layout, road maintenance. Financially, we've invested $1.2 million into the Revelstoke Community Energy Corporation. We've also donated $50,000 to the Aquatic Center, $15,000 to the helipad. Annually, we give out one or sometimes up to two, depending on the applications, $1,000 scholarships to the graduating class. And recently, we established the RCFC Legacy Fund, and we established that last year and funded it with $300,000. So this year, I'm happy on behalf of the RCFC board to present to the city council another check to further fund the legacy fund, and if I can hand that over to Mark. This year we're able to provide a check in the amount of $600,000.
We should do this up here before you want to do this. Let's do it right here. That's all right.
Mike.
That's exciting.
With that, that's it, and thank you very much.
Well, I just want to echo a couple comments that Mike had made, and I was on city council when we went through the referendum and proposed the Forest Corporation, as well as being on the board whenever I've been on city council, which has been off and on a couple of times. I've always been on the board. But the Forest Corp has done a lot more than just the physical logs and now paying money back to the city. It's really contributed to the psyche of the community and building up the Revelstoke can-do attitude that we can look after our own problems. And believe me, back in those days, there were a lot of problems, and it added a lot of confidence. It also gave confidence to a lot of the people in the forest industry that there was a future in it, and it's obvious, especially with this check today, that there's a very good future and has been in forestry. We provided logs on the open market, which gave smaller mills and independents an opportunity to bid on logs. It's a big opportunity for the bigger ones. It also provided a steady stream of logs to our industry partners. But another thing that it did is that it told a whole bunch of communities around BC that you can actually look at your own problems and deal with it. And I know over the years, I can't tell you how many times communities have come to us and reached out, and we've given them information and shown them how we did it, how we're doing. And I'm sure that this council here, when they travel to different events, still get asked about the Community Forest Corporation. So we're instilling confidence in other communities of doing things a little bit differently. And our attitude, having been on the board all the years, our attitude has always been that we will be the best stewards of the environment and the forest. And I know that we do that day in and day out, and we instill that in all of our contractors and employees, that everything they do in the bush matters, and because we are owned by citizens of this community, we do a better job than anybody does, and I have no problem standing up and saying that to anybody, that that's one of the big goals. And we've been able to achieve all of those successes because of the management and staff that we've had in place, both present and past, the board of directors that have sat around that table, both present and past, and the community is watching, and I hope that they're taking notice that the $600,000 this year, the $300,000 last year, the corporation is debt-free, it's doing all of these great things, as well as giving back to the community in so many different ways, and I think it's something that I'm extremely proud of. I know that Jeff Battersby is extremely proud of, and I'm hoping that the community's proud of it, because it's just another example of where we're leaders in the municipal field, and we did it all together. And special thanks to you, Mike, and your team, who have not only brought us this check here, but have taken the whole Community Forest Corporation to heart and really ran it like it is your business, but it's all of our business. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Okay.
Good. Thanks again, Mike. Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
So the item 5A, we're going to develop services zoning amendment by law 445, and are we going to have a short presentation?
I start with closing remarks.
Okay, and then I'll read this opening statement.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a proposed zoning amendment, or a public hearing for a proposed zoning amendment that had first and second reading at the previous council meeting, located at 445 West Side Road. This is the Bresco Recycling Operations site. You can see it on an older air photo here. The site is a fair bit more orderly today than in this air photo, for sure. Here's the current zoning and OCP designations. The proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the property from M1 light industrial to M2 general industrial. This is in order to legalize a portion of their operations, which is clean metal salvage. This is a long-standing use which is not permitted in the light industrial zone. The proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the current OCP land use designation. This application was presented to the Advisory Planning Commission at their June 5th meeting, where it was supported.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. This public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, the public will be allowed to make representations to council, and all persons present who believe their interests are affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given the opportunity to address council or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. Those of you who wish to speak concerning the proposed bylaw should commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. We have a speakers list set up here. We have the proponent here as well. No one has put their name forward, but there will be lots of opportunity for the public to speak, and I will be going out to the public a minimum of 3 times for anyone to speak to this proposed zoning amendment bylaw. And before we begin, I'd like to ask the corporate officer to confirm that all due process is followed according to the Local Government Act.
Yes, Your Worship, for 445 West Side Road rezoning application, we had absolutely no public response.
Okay. So again, this zoning amendment bylaw for 445 West Side Road is open to the public for comments. Mr. Andrews, did you wish to speak to council?
Please.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you.
give you your name and address, Stuart, please, for the record.
My name is Stuart Andrews, 600 Highway 23 North. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for listening to me. I understand that the parcel land is going to be rezoned from M1 to M2. My concern is that M2 allows for asphalt production and concrete production. Now, I don't wish to see that happen on that area there because my house overlooks that area. Like last year, right adjacent to there, the Ministry of Transport had a temporary asphalt plant set up, and the smell of the asphalt plant fumes drifting uphill was pretty bad at my house. I know the people complained in Columbia Park, and people on Frisbee Court were making comments about the asphalt. No, so being a very, very tight valley there, it's not a good place for allowing asphalt. If this is going to be rezoned from M1 to M2, I would like to see section 9.2.1, subsection 2, which permits asphalt production and concrete and ready mix taken out of M2 zoning. It's already in M3, so it doesn't need to be in M2 as well.
Okay. Comments are taken. Any other comments?
Did I make myself clear? I'm sorry, I was a bit rushed with.
Well, I think the planner was making some notes. Is there any more comments from the public? Mr. Wright, have you got any comments on what Mr. Andrews had to say?
Yeah, I'm not sure about my mic. I'll just step up here. Thanks, Your Worship. I was just looking through here. I don't believe that, I think those items that Mr. Andrews is speaking about are exempted from that zone.
From M2. I think that was his point, that he wanted an exemption.
No, they are already excluded. So the section 9.2.12 of the M2 zoning bylaw, it allows manufacturing, processing, finishing and packaging, but excludes sawmills, planing mills, asphalt, concrete product production, ready mix concrete, rock, sand, gravel. So those are excluded. Those are not permitted in the proposed zone. So they will not be permitted in that zone.
I apologize for reading the zoning wrong, but I read it hastily at home and I didn't read it.
All right. We're back to the public for a second time. Are there any comments from the public on this zoning amendment bylaw for West Side Road? Any comments or questions from council? Going back to the public for the third and final time, are there any comments on this zoning amendment bylaw for 445 West Side Road? Looking for a motion to close the public hearing. Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Soul, all those in favor? Motion carried. And there is two other motions there, if anybody's inclined to.
I can bring them forward, Your Worship. A2, the zoning amendment bylaw number 2228 be read a third time.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion carried.
I'll bring forward the zoning amendment bylaw number 2228 be adopted.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And we're on to item B. Aaron?
Yeah, I have a conflict on item B due to business relationship with one of the parties involved.
We are having an informal hearing for administration on road closure and dedication removal bylaw number 2179 and road exchange agreement portion of Mountain Road.
Is it done?
Done.
Too cool for school, kids. Appreciate all your help.
Yeah, thanks, Brett.
Thank you very much.
We have any further presentation on this?
If council wanted any clarification on it, I guess the notice has been provided, it's been included under invitation to submit written comments. I guess we didn't get any.
Yes, Your Worship, no comments.
Agency referrals were all satisfied. I've got right-of-ways for before us in Bertalis?
Correct.
Is there anybody wishing to put a motion on the floor? Councilor Nixon.
Your worship, I'll bring forward that road closure and dedication removal bylaw number 2179 be adopted.
Motion by Councilor Nixon, seconded by Councilor Brothers. Discussion on the motion. Councilor Nixon.
Your worship, just for the public's sake, the reason we're doing this informal hearing is because we're dealing with the public's land, right, in this land exchange.
So it's more of a housekeeping item is what I look at this.
Yes.
Any comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Somebody let our councilor back in. So I'd like to make two announcements I'd like to make. The first one I would like to make is I want to offer congratulations to Dawn Lowe, who has passed her local government leadership program. This is a program that has 3 years of hard work, and I want to have everybody join me in congratulating Dawn on the hard work that she's done. And I just want the taxpayers to know that there's no increased pay involved with this, but there's going to be a whole bunch of increased workload. Thank you. I also want to let the public, and especially the residents of Southside, know that all this new equipment that we are going to be installing in the sewage lagoon that we're hoping is going to be the solution to all of our sewage lagoon problems is going to be starting installation on July the 9th, and we're joining the Sunset residents and welcoming this new equipment that's going into the lagoon. I would also like to update the community on the development cost charges that has been the subject to a lot of controversy in the community, and I want to explain to the community what the process moving forward is going to be, and just assure them that this process is not a done deal. It's actually just getting started. This council has budgeted to go through and update the development cost charge bylaw, and we've hired outside consultants to do studies on projects, on growth projections, and figuring out the math on that, and that's what they have done. We've had a couple of sessions of input with stakeholders, which is part of the process that we have. A lot of the stakeholders have chosen to look at this and provide very valuable information that staff and council, staff and consultants are looking at how they can incorporate what makes sense, what's going to make a better bylaw to come back to City Council. They are going to put together a report that's going to be coming to Council on July 10th. Council is going to be looking at this report. There will be different options available, and Council can pick and choose the option that they think is the best, or change the options to what they think is the best. But the bottom line is that there will be a Council decision on the final outcome of the development cost charge. That will be then, there will be a motion by Council. I'm assuming it'll be a first and second reading. That will then give the public the opportunity to look at what Council is thinking after gathering all this information. There will be opportunities for the public to engage Council, send in emails, whatever they feel the best way to bend their ear to get their feelings be known on the future of the development cost charge update. And it will be sent off to the inspector municipalities to ensure that the process that they've designed is followed. And they'll look at it. They will either give their approval or not. It then comes back to Council for either amendment or final reading and adoption. It will be, again, another Council choice. I know that this has created a lot of angst for a lot of people in the community, and that's unfortunate when all we're doing is we're getting a draft of a report for council to look at, for the community to comment on, and that's exactly what we've been doing. So there has been no decision at this table on the direction that they'll go, and I just want to reiterate that the report will be coming back with the comments, with options, and the only people that will be deciding the future of the development cost charge bylaw is the people that are sitting around the table that are going to be voting on it, and that's what's going to be happening. So there is going to be another opportunity for the public to be involved, and but they will have something more to talk about when council makes a deliberation on July the 10th and passes a first and second reading, which then starts the process again or continues the process, and it is not the final decision. So I just want to reiterate that. And I got to say, I was a little bit disappointed with some of the comments that some members of the public have brought forward to the staff and to the consultants. You know, it's the old saying, don't kill the messenger, because that's exactly what it was. It was a draft for discussion, and I think some people got a little bit carried away, and I can understand why. It's affecting their livelihood, it's affecting their business, it's affecting the growth, it's affecting a lot of things, and council is well aware of that, and I'm confident that at the end of the day, we're going to have a DCC bylaw that is going to be building our community into the future with the infrastructure that we need, and balancing the needs of the development and building community on how much they are going to have to pay. And without presupposing what council is going to do, the municipal assist factor is where the whole community gets involved with paying into these upgraded infrastructure. And I don't want to hazard a guess on where that's going to end up, because that again is a council decision. But there's a lot more that you're going to be hearing about development cost charges, and I just want to reiterate, it will be decided at this table by the people that are voting, and I'm looking forward to that process moving along. Thank you. Recommendations from committee of the whole. We have item 8A.
I'll bring that forward, Your Worship. That an additional 0.5 full-time equivalent bylaw compliance officer position be used to enforce downtown parking restrictions for a 1-month period.
Motion by Councilor Brother, second by Councilor Sauls. Comments, questions?
Your Worship, I heard really good, healthy feedback on this decision by council and staff.
Well, I think parking is getting to be a bigger and bigger issue, and we're reacting to the comments from people and trying to create an easier environment for people to find a place to park, and the length of time that they're parking has to become reasonable, just like any other community. So, any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item B.
I can bring that forward again, Your Worship. Part 1, that staff be authorized to enter into a new agreement with Pacific Sport Interior BC for the GymWorks program.
Motion by Councilor Brother, second by Councilor Sauls. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
On Part 2, that fees and charges bylaw number 2008 be amended to reflect the partnership agreement between the City of Revelstoke and Pacific Sport Interior BC for the GymWorks program.
Motion by Councilor Brothers, seconded by Councilor Sauls. Discussion on the motion, Councilor Brothers?
Just a question. I noticed in the agreement that there are no specific numbers. When I saw the examples of other communities, they have a 50% discount for this or a 100% discount for something else. Is that, and we have nothing in the agreement, is that something we set later on, or how does that work?
I think it was zero.
Yes, Your Worship. In the staff report that I brought forward to the committee of the whole, I discussed options, and I suggested that there would be no cost attached to the program, and that wasn't included in the recommendations. I think that was what the intention was.
That's fine. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the motion? All those those in favor? Motion's carried. And item 9A.
Your Worship, I'll bring forward that the election procedures and assent voting bylaw number 2221 be adopted.
Motion by Councilor Sol, seconded by Councilor Duke. Discussion on the motion? Councilor Sol?
Your Worship, this is dealing with the electronic voting. When it was originally brought out, I had voted against it because I was concerned about the seniors, and Ms. Lowe explained that the seniors will be shown how to use the machine, and those in the facilities will be using a typical paper voting system rather than the electronic. So I'm quite comfortable in putting this forward.
And as well, I've received the same response from Ms. Lowe, and I think I'm confident. The concern was the seniors and how they're going to deal with this, and I think the process is set up so they can be comfortable with the process. And we're moving forward. This is the new age, and we should go to electronic.
Well, as long as, like, for half of us in the room, that we can figure out how we can all vote, so that's okay.
Your Worship, yeah, just one question, the same one I asked last time, just for clarification. So those who will be voting, who choose to vote for not the full slate of candidates, will then produce their ballot to the worker and will be questioned about that and asked to either affirm it or refill out the ballot. I'm wondering if that's still the case. Okay.
Your Worship, they don't present their ballot to the attendant at the voting machine. They insert the ballot into the machine. It will be returned to them. Yeah, the secrecy is free, that they keep it there and tell them that they've undergone the council race, and they can then say, well, no, that's how I want to cast my ballot. In which case, it then goes into the machine, and ballot marks are done.
So what it's doing is it's not allowing anybody to see how their vote is purposing.
Right, and the added advantage of the machine is that they're inadvertently overvotes the council race. For instance, it's returned and asked if it's like a replacement, as I mentioned before. But the primary example, the benefit that I saw was the reduction, massive reduction in the number of rejected ballots of 5,000.
Just a further question with respect to that. The only concern that I have is confusion. If there's a senior or somebody who's not confident with that system gets something that says, okay, your vote was rejected. Do we have something to let people know, this is a normal process?
It's an attendant at the machine.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I did this in Prince George, 46,000 electors, I had one complaint.
Okay. No, as long as there's someone there to assist and make sure that somebody's not confused with a returned ballot and saying,
Yeah, somebody has to be there monitoring
Okay.
ballots.
Great, thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor. Is there any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Did we get that recorded? Motion is carried. Thank you. We are on to item 9B.
Your Worship, I'll bring forward that the 5-year financial plan 2018-2022 amendment bylaw number 2229 be adopted.
Motion by Councilor Nixon, second by Councilor Sol. Discussion, Councilor Nixon.
This is a housekeeping motion. This was discussed at the Committee of the Whole, and this is to bring forward projects from last year that are still being worked on.
Very good, thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are on to unfinished business, and you guys are going to have to pay attention to this. We are bringing the motion that was tabled from the previous council meeting. We're going to recommend that council turn down the motion, because the next, item number 2 is to be ignored because it's redundant when you can't amend a motion that has been turned down. And if you look at item 10B, it's got the new updated motion. And you want to do a presentation now, or will we get halfway through this mess?
It's up to your worship. You seem to be on a roll explaining it, so we can carry on with that.
Okay. So So I need a motion that the following motion be lifted from the table.
I can bring that motion forward. The following motion be lifted from the table, that development variance permit number DVP 2018-02 be approved, subject to the addition of the following permit conditions. Floor elevations as shown in Schedule A are relative to before construction average elevation of the front lot line. Property grading and design must prevent surface runoff to neighboring properties.
So this is the motion that was tabled. We since then had information with the R2 zone and the size of the building that's being considered, and the reason why we are asking you to turn this motion down is because we need a further amendment to accommodate the size of the building on the R2 lot. How's that so far? So I'm looking for discussion of the...
Seconder.
Do you need a seconder on this?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get a seconder? Oh, sorry.
Do now.
Councilor Nixon is going to second the motion, sorry. So again, the motion is being lifted because it was deferred. The recommendation is that we turn it down and replace it with the following motion that is coming. Does anybody have any questions on the process so far? All those in favor?
Like, oh, we're not in favor.
Sorry.
Well, I have to ask who's in favor.
Oh, sorry.
All those against? Motion is defeated. Thank you. How about a presentation?
Thank you, Your Worship. So council considered this development variance permit for issuance at the June 12th council meeting. Council heard some public presentations. They deliberated amongst themselves, or yourselves, I suppose, and requested some additional information from staff. So since that time, while staff was reviewing the permit, it came to light that the provision in the zoning bylaw for minimum dwelling width in the R2 zone is not met in this particular instance. The R2 zone has a minimum dwelling width of 6 meters. This building is approximately 5.4 meters. Generally, the minimum building width provisions in a bylaw are an exclusionary zoning practice held over from the 80s to prohibit mobile homes in neighborhoods, single-wide mobile homes. This is obviously not a single-wide mobile home. This will be a stick-built house. Further, you couldn't meet the minimum setbacks and meet the minimum building width on a 25-foot lot if you've got 5-foot setbacks on either side. There you are, you're at 15-foot building space and couldn't meet the bylaw. So that would inadvertently be sterilizing a lot, which there is some case law around is probably not even, council wouldn't be able to sterilize a pre-existing lot for a single-family house. So getting that out of the way, I can review some of the concerns which caused council to table the motion for issuance. Then you've read the series of motions which will allow council to consider support for a revised permit, updating the variance, sending a revised notice to neighboring public with respect to the additional variance in the proposal. So firstly, going through the concerns that were outlined at the last council meeting, those were chiefly around elevation differences between the two lots, or 3 lots, one on each side, and the proposal. Unfortunately, the lighting was fairly poor in the Google Street View photo here, but you can get an idea. The lot is where this garage is. This is 415 2nd Street East. This is 417, the subject property. This is 419. Additional concerns were around building code, fire separation, the provision of windows and openings on one side of the building, also around snow sliding and storage on the principal, on the subject property, as well as snow sliding off of the neighboring roof. Some concerns around parking, in that currently the existing house at 415 is using 417 yard for parking, and some concerns around an observation deck. So I'll go through those each one at a time. So firstly, with elevation differences, 2nd Street East, this block tends to slope from let's call it west to east. Each of these houses is a little bit higher than the next, and they drop as you go down further away from Mackenzie. So what has been put into the proposed variance permit is ensuring that the height of the house remains as shown on the drawings, proposed as relative to the street here. So this house here is roughly about, the main floor elevation is roughly 6 feet off the ground, off the sidewalk. You've got some steps here, and then there's about 4 more steps in the shadow there you can't see up to the front. The proposal, you can see here is about 4 or 5 steps, getting 4 feet off of grade, and the neighbor's house here is there's about 2 to 3 steps up to the front door there, with the main floor elevation approximately 2.5 to 3 feet off the ground, off the front elevation. So a condition has been placed in the proposed permit to ensure that the height of all of the floors as shown in this proposal are the height that's going to be there. They're not going to be building up the house. They're not going to be digging it down. Final grading and drainage plans will be reviewed for compliance with ensuring that all grading and drainage ensures that all drainage and runoff is kept on the property. That will likely have to require some sort of retaining wall system or drainage system that keeps everything sloping in towards the property or into some collection, stormwater collection system, which then will drain into a rock pit that will be adequately sized by an engineer at the rear. What else did we have here? With respect to fire separation, there were some windows shown. We referred this to the building inspector. The windows shown right now are steel reinforced fireproof windows. Those could be permitted in a setback less than 1.2 meters. However, they would need a code compliance report from a qualified individual. Similar type of windows, for example, are in your fire doors in a school. If you think of the metal screen mesh in your school windows, that's a fire-rated window. So that could be a possibility. Another possibility is you can have automatic shutter systems on openings of a limited size, that there's some sort of device when your house, if worst case scenario, your house heats up, catches on fire, that thing will break a resistor in there, and then the shutters automatically come down and meet the equivalency of non-combustible under the building code. The alternative also is to remove the windows. So there are options here for the builder. Also sprinklering could be an option as well. So there's a number of options. They require reports. It's possible construction. As far as snow, the roof is designed to hold snow and not allow it to accumulate. As far as snow coming off of the neighbor's property, you can see here in the image there's a valley. I'm losing my battery here. There's a valley here. That is of some concern. Snow sliding from existing non-conforming house locations in Revelstoke is not uncommon, especially in the downtown. It's generally treated as a civil matter between property owners, where one property owner isn't able, under case law, to negatively impact others. There's also legislative provisions that require one property owner to allow access to another for exterior walls if they're up against the property line, that sort of thing. So those are in place in the civil world. As far as safety provisions that were discussed, there are numerous egress options in the worst case scenario where something happens or there's an emergency, you have to leave yourself from this building. There may be a pile of snow here. You've got 2 different directions from the egress door. There are also emergency egress windows on the front and rear of the building. Further to that is if we were not proposing a variance for this, the variance on that side is 0.3 of a meter, 1 foot. So the house could still be constructed without a variance, and it'd be 1 foot further from the property line, which staff consider to be a negligible change with respect to snow accumulation. Where are we in the notes here? As far as parking, the applicant is happy to propose, and we've provided in a condition, parking on the neighboring lot as a condition of this variance on this lot, so then each lot will have their own parking and meet their minimum parking requirements. As far as observation deck, that was something that was in an original concept that was not approved by staff. There was a third story that didn't meet bylaws, was non-compliant, and staff were not supportive of such a thing. What is proposed is very minor entry porches at a 4-foot elevation. I believe one is approximately 5 by 6 feet, the other one is smaller than that. So I'm hoping that those comments and concerns that are outlined in your report address the concerns of council. Generally, these conditions or considerations that staff have considered, they're not necessarily, the staff's intent is not to necessarily satisfy all of neighboring property owners' concerns. However, we are here to consider them, and those concerns, staff, in our professional opinions, have considered those concerns and addressed the ones determined to be relevant or mitigatable in this provision. If you've got any questions, I'm here to answer.
I would like to get a motion on the floor first. Who's prepared for the motion?
Do you want to bring the second motion forward, and this is also going to be turned down so we can move forward?
Because it wasn't...
No, there was just two parts of 10A, is what I'm saying. We're just going to omit part 2.
We're going to go to 10, we're on 10B.
Okay, so figure the part 2. Okay, the development variance permit application number DBP 2018-02 as revised from Christian Andrew Farrow be approved, and the notice is given of council's intention to consider the issuance of development variance permit number DBP 2018-02 as revised to vary the following sections of the zoning bylaw as seen in our agenda.
Motion by Councilor Duke, seconded by Councilor Schultz. Question I have is that proper grading and design must prevent service runoff to neighboring properties. That's going to be included in here somewhere as well.
Correct. That is in your attachment with the revised permit. All of the conditions that were addressed in previous council resolutions have been embedded into the new revised permit application.
I knew that. I just wanted to hear it again. Sure. Councilor Nixon.
That was my question that you covered off as well about the retaining wall. That'll be covered off under the building permit?
Through your worship, a retaining wall is an option for the builder. It will depend on their final civil design as to whether something is required or not. Some way to ensure that runoff does not go onto the neighbor's property needs to be designed. There are a few different options for that, a couple of different collection systems. One of them could be a retaining wall with a false grade going back towards the building for a certain distance. Another one could be something going the other direction and a retention system. At the end of the day, there will be a difference in elevation from the neighbor's property to the proposed. The neighbor needs to take that, or the developer, the builder needs to take that into consideration, and staff will be looking at that to make sure that's the case as part of the building permit process. There'll be elevations will have to be provided for the corners of all the lots so we know where the property is in relation to the neighbors.
So just further to that, does our engineering staff sign off on that, or the building inspector?
That is part of grading, is part of the civil engineering review.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and I don't know if the proponent is here, but I would encourage them to look seriously at that. And, regardless of how minor the variance is, it's still going to be somewhat of an impact on the neighborhood. And one of the things that we keep talking about at the table is being a good neighbor. And I think that to do a little bit extra to ensure that somebody else's property isn't being affected and it looks nice and it's finished, I think would go a long way to fitting this development. And so I hope that that is looked at both by the developer and by staff when the time comes. Looking for any more, Councilor Duke.
Yeah, I just think this is a good thing. Again, we're getting infill into the city. We're going to see more of these lots that are 25 feet wide. This is some of the stuff we're just seeing start to happen in town. There's things that arise that we didn't necessarily anticipate. And then a neighbor also retains the services of an old planner, so they can pull some stuff up there. And in the long run, it's probably a good thing. And this is something that staff can move forward, have this in the process of when people apply, that they know that these things are going to come up on these smaller lots.
Is there any more comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. I'm assuming I probably should have asked for 1, 2, and 3 to be included in that original motion, but they can be made separately.
I think when you said as listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And just to, again, reiterate that we will be going through this process, and then we'll be coming back to this table for final approval after the neighbors are notified of the intent, correct?
Yes, Your Worship. What council just resolved to do was to revise the permit to consider the building width as well as the other side setback variances. A new revised notification letter will be sent out to neighboring residences, informing them of the change, and council will consider it at the upcoming council meeting.
July 10th.
Correct.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lickman. We are into 11A.
I'll bring it up for 11A, the 2017 annual report we received as presented.
Motion by Councilor Brothers, second by Councilor Stoll. Discussion on the roll. You have that presentation, I'm sorry.
I'm going to do a quick presentation for you here. Before June each year, council must prepare an annual report and make the report available for public inspection and have the report available at a meeting of its determination, and council has chosen the June 26th council meeting for that presentation. There's many specific requirements that we are required to present. It's legislated through the community charter, and I'll explain the requirements as I go through and just show how we've attempted to make it easier for the public to understand and still stay within the legislative requirements. So to begin with, we have a message from the mayor. That's not legislated. We just put that in. And we also have a message from our CAO. And they talk about accomplishments in the past year and future goals. We are required to have a report that respects municipal services and operations, and this is where senior staff put together a page of all their services and what they provide to the public as well as to each other. So I thought this was a great picture that Fire Rescue Services put in here. Engineering, so each department does their own. So the annual report is actually based on council objectives. So council objectives that were determined in 2015, I believe, when we first determined them, started with quality of life. And in the report, we are required to put out to the public what's in progress with respect to each objective. So quality of life, the City of Revelstoke will emphasize quality of life issues, including social, active living, cultural experience, and recreational opportunities. I was hoping this could be bigger so everybody could see, but this is the best we could do. I'm not going to read each thing, but quality of life that's in progress. Some of the things that Parks and Recreation are working on are, of course, the Farwell Splash Park at Farwell Park. Corporate administration is creating a good neighbor bylaw that will replace the unsightly bylaw. And for the future, Parks and Rec is working on the Williams Lake Park campground upgrades, the park and the campground, upgrades. Corporate administration is looking forward to a traffic impact study that will assist with parking issues and signage. And as everybody knows, I'm going to take the opportunity to push forward that starting July 9th, we'll be doing active bylaw enforcement downtown for parking. So that'll be our little taste of how that works out.
Some Stokeless
I know, it's all over. Planning for the future was the second council objective. City of Revelstoke will ensure that the city services encourage and support community visions towards development for the future. In progress right now, development services, budgeted for at the moment, zoning and OCP bylaw review and update. Corporate administration is currently reviewing and updating the traffic and highways bylaw, which is quite old. Engineering and Public Works is, of course, doing the development cost charges update process. For the future, Parks and Rec are working on review and update of cultural strategy. Economic Development is working on a multi-use feasibility plan for the golf course and wayfinding strategy, which we're looking forward to. And Corporate Administration is, of course, always looking towards improving bylaw enforcement and applying resources. The third objective of council was to safeguard infrastructure. City of Revelstoke will protect the continuance of healthy infrastructure for current and future generations. So safeguarding infrastructure, what's in progress, I'm not reading everything, I'm just kind of pulling out a few highlights. Parks and Rec has continued with planning upgrades to the museum and working on a plan for the arena and curling rink roof replacement. Engineering and Public Works has been very busy working on the Big Eddy Water Project, sewer treatment plan, asset management and planning, development cost charge bylaws. And then Engineering and Public Works is doing stormwater plans. Corporate Administration is conducting a risk and hazard assessment for the animal shelter. And Fire Rescue is developing a facility enhancement plan. The fourth and final objective of this council was economic development and business support. And then in progress, we have continued to strengthen transportation links between and beyond Revelstoke, engaging the business community. This is actually already completed in the preparation of the proposed intercommunity business licensing bylaw. And in progress, we have working with Okanagan College to develop tourism management program, participating in environmental assessment of the Hydro Rev 6. Economic development for the future, we have a lot of goals for economic development for the future. Sorry, I got behind there. Some of the highlights would be strengthen transportation links between and beyond Revelstoke, implementing a technology strategy, multi-use feasibility study, that's for the golf course, and then developing the Fab Lab project, among many of them. So in the report, we're also required to report out on completed projects. This is how we've demonstrated them to the public. Quality of life, which is the first one, first objective. Support event organizers for Parks and Rec. Support event organizers of the Luna Nocturnal Art and Wonder Festival. Fundraising efforts for the skateboard park and Kovach Park continue. Public art walking brochure has been completed. Corporate administration is creating the municipal parks regulation bylaw. Strategic work plan for bylaw enforcement. Comprehensive review and update of the clean air bylaw, among other things. Planning for the future, we implemented the inter-community business license bylaw, provided bylaws compliance training for city officials. And so this helps with, this is something that council might be interested in. What we did was we have specific officers in our organization that can actually implement and enforce bylaws, and we've had specific training for this, so that helps with our resources because we do have reduced resources by bringing bylaw enforcement in-house. There's officers among us that can still write tickets and or educate and gain compliance to other bylaws. Let's see, economic development has a 5-year economic development plan. Where am I here? Okay, back up one. And safeguarding infrastructure, engineering and public works completed the Front and Wales lift station upgrade, the Mutis Road intersection, and then this is always ongoing, but completed specific parts of the asset management plan. Parks and Recreation replaced the compressors at the Revelstoke Forum and completed the feasibility study for the replacement of the arena rink roof. Corporate Administration completed upgrades to the animal shelter, including security, and facility entrance, and we also established an impound yard for abandoned vehicles. Because we have a lot of people that come into town for the winter, they leave vehicles on the street sometimes when they leave, so we now have a process where we can contact the owners, and if we can't contact the owners, we can take them off the street and put them in the impound yard. As you can imagine, tow yards don't really want to take abandoned vehicles, so at least this way we can get them off the street. Economic Development completed their electronic vehicle charging station and supported the second year of the air charter service, established destination tourism 5-year plan, and startup Revelstoke strategy. So those are the reports that city staff have to put together. I gotta get my notes straightened out here. Among other requirements, we have got to present, or we can present, anything extra. Last year we did the public participation. This year we wanted to just flag the long-term financial planning. So we have created the 15-year long-term financial plan, as well as policies and strategies and a process to present that to council and the public. So that was one of our main focuses this year. So we have a complete page that outlines all of that in the annual report. We have to put together permissive tax exemptions for the public, and we have to have the name and the amount that they would have been paying. I also have to report out anybody that's been disqualified from office, so thank God we didn't have to do that.
Close.
And we have to put a consolidated financial statements in there as well. So it's definitely a team effort. It takes every department to put this together, so I'd like to thank all department heads for their efforts. So I'm just there's some comments that we received from the public that I'll just read out a couple. They're cute. Great report. It makes it easy for the public to understand the city's goals as well as the accomplishments. Good communications, well done. And now I know what you guys do. That was a cute one. Anyhow,
I think I said that a couple of times, now I know what we do.
yeah. So it summarizes it all. It's much easier. It used to have no pictures, and it was all just charts, and nobody could really understand it. So this is a much nicer way to present it to the public. One final thing I'd like to thank Judy for putting this all together.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. I want to thank you, Don, for leading the charge, and I think that sometimes, especially around the table, and I'm sure that staff are in the same pile, that you get so busy, you finish a project, you get on the next one, and the annual report actually reminds you of all the things that have been accomplished. So it's a very cool document, and looking forward to being out to the public. And congratulations to council, and also, and of course, congratulations to all the staff that made all these things become a reality. Comments or questions from council?
I think it was last year, through your chair, that you guys changed the format of the report. The year before. Wow, okay. Yeah, it's so much better.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Continue the good work.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thanks again.
I can bring forward 11B. That application for HAP 2018.03 be approved, and council give notice of its intention to consider the issuance of HAP 2018.03, including the following variances to zoning bylaw number 1264. Reduce the minimum side yard setback of an accessory structure to a size of 3 meters to 1.5 meters. Reduce the minimum rear yard setback of 3 meters and to reduce the minimum sightline triangle of 6 meters to 4 meters.
Motion by by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Randall. We have a presentation, Mr. Wiggins.
Yes, Your Worship, a quick one here, just to let council know what's happening. This is a city-initiated heritage alteration permit for the relocation and reconstruction of a single-car garage at 511 3rd Street East. This proposal will accommodate the relocation and reconstruction of a currently non-conforming single vehicle garage, allow room for the town Fort Victoria Road intersection improvements. The accessory structure here is right up against the property line in the site corner, and then you've got a uniquely shaped lot here. There's a little, there it is. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but it's seen better days. So coming along with that, this is in the heritage preservation area. This out into the area. So what happens required 3 embedded variances. Required setback from 3 meters to 4.15. Structure is 0.3 and reduce the minimum sightline triangle from 6 meters to 4 meters. So that's the distance here, the clearance space when you're at the stop line, and how far you can see. 4 is not exactly a problem. 6 is fairly large. The rear setback variance is to allow for the parallel provision of the garage, which is not uncommon in some of our older neighborhoods. There are the garages that you pull in sideways, and this one allows for that to keep usable space in the yard, and to ensure more the traffic for this is coming in and out of the lane here rather than coming down and across the multi-use path. Staff is supportive of the proposal. There's a drawing of a simple single-car garage that will be installed there. It's generally compliant with the Heritage Conservation Area guidelines. It's small, it's rectangular, has a relatively steep pitched roof. Staff is supportive of the council approval of the proposed resolution today. We'll direct staff to issue notification of the proposed variances. And any comments received will be brought back to a future meeting for consideration of issuance.
That's it. Okay, thank you, Mr. Reagan. Councilor, do you have a motion, second on the floor?
I recognize, Mr. Reagan, that you see the application has been initiated by the city on behalf of the owner. How does that work? Did we have to expropriate, or how did that work?
I'm not sure off the top of my head what we did with the land use arrangements. Maybe CAO could answer that.
I don't think there's any expropriation involved here. I think what we did was, council doesn't have to apply to amend its own bylaws. And so because we would like this change to occur, so the multi-use path, and you can see that it's separated, there's laneway from the road as the road goes down to 1 lane for the roundabout. It's an improvement for us, and so the landowner was prepared to move the garage. We thought, because it was our desire to have that occur, that the city would incur the application. And that's really all that's happened here.
Our planner just informed me that there is no expropriation, which is, I just noticed in here that it's hard to see, but this is the property line right here. So it's just the city's going to be building right up to the property line. It will be right up against the structure, and it's already undesirable to have a driveway backing out. This property owner has been backed up on Victoria and has to get out of their garage. So this is crossing over the multi-use path.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship, I'll bring forward that the reserve fund and surplus transfers identified in your package in Appendix A be approved.
First by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Stoll. Discussion on the motion.
Just for clarification, we're just moving money around, right? And we're taking it from either surpluses that we had, I guess that's the whole objective, and moving it into areas, reserves that we need to do stuff.
That's an affirmative.
If council, with the new reserves and surplus fund policy, identifies target balances in a number of those funds, so that may assist towards those.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Carried.
And the second part of that, Your Worship, is that a reserve fund transfer bylaw be brought forward for council consideration in order to formalize the reserve fund transfers.
Motion by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Stoll. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, I'll do the next one, that a grant in aid of $2,000 be awarded to the Revelstoke Minor Hockey Association, and that the grant take the form of credit to be used against the cost of ice rental at the arena for their pre-season hockey school, and that such credit have no cash value.
Motion by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Lynch. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Nixon.
So this has no cash value, Your Worship, and this is just one that usually comes in late in the year, and we like to help out the hockey school.
We got 2 inputs in here for. Any grant name. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you.
And the next one, Your Worship, that the city's 2018 to 2022 financial plan be amended to include the additional dividend revenue from the Revelstoke Community Forest Corporation, an additional transfer of $600,000 to the General Capital Reserve Fund, and that the funds be segregated for use towards a legacy community project, along with the previous dividend received from the Revelstoke Forestry Corporation.
Motion by Nixon, seconded by Councillor Stoll.
Question, just with respect to the use of the funds for the legacy community project, I know there's nothing in the bylaw that sets out the guidelines for that. Is that just understood that there are guidelines with respect to the legacy funds?
I thought there was a default. Yeah, I think that the real intent is that not be put into general revenue and be used for everyday, and the name legacy does imply certain things, I would think, so.
I was just concerned that when you hear general, you might automatically assume that it just goes into the general fund, but I just want to make sure that we're really clear that this is going to be
Good, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carried, thank you.
Your Worship, I'll bring forward that the 2017 Statement of Financial Information be approved, and that the Mayor and Director of Finance be authorized to execute same on behalf of the city.
Motion by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Stoll. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion carried, thank you. And we are on to correspondence. And the first item is Rosemary League Branch looking for a letter of support.
Do you need a motion for that, Your Worship?
We should do a motion, yeah.
Okay, I'll make that motion to write a letter in support of the Legion for their grant application.
Second by Councillor Brothers. Discussion on the motion. I'm asking council to support this. I think that the Legion it does need some help, and if there's any opportunity that we can help them out, that we should. They're a great service to our community. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item is item D. Rural Security Advisory Committee letter regarding tourism consideration
Yeah, Your Worship, on this one, yes, I think that staff will go ahead and paint the welcome metal sign on the CPR rail bridge just as a matter of upkeep.
Your Worship, the paint color, I understand, was chosen by the Revitalization Committee. Is quite plainly visible this time of year. I think when there's a white background and snow on the ground, it is hard to see. I think we could consider painting the outline of the letters, but it is truly the color that was requested, and I think if you did a border outline on the letters, it should be relatively easy. You take care of that visibility problem for the winter months.
Good idea, because I was there at the Enhancement Committee when they wanted it changed from black to the paler color. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, Your Worship, if items B through D are going to proceed to any sort of substantive discussion, I'll declare a conflict on that.
Well, I guess to make things a little bit simpler, I would like to see us refer this back to staff, who then would send it to the various departments that are housed.
Can I make just some comments on some of the requests? One is to paint the mural on the CP Rail Bridge. I understand that that's been asked for before, and it's been refused. CP Rail has very serious concern about community volunteers or others being on an actively used rail bridge on the main line across the continent, painting murals. They're worried about ongoing maintenance and upkeep. I think that request would likely be refused. I don't know if there's enough points of distraction for motorists, particularly those unfamiliar with the area. I don't know that adding a mural would necessarily help. Parking enforcement's another part of the request, and as council just approved. And those, well, we intend to start enforcing parking downtown. We're going to do that a seasonal flip, but I think it'll become more routine and accepted as that's the way it's going to be done. Passenger Transportation Board request anyone can apply for a taxi license, additional taxi license at any time. The rules and the regulations and requirements are set out quite well on the Passenger Transportation Board's website. They're going to have a number of considerations before they grant another license. They want to ensure that additional licenses don't simply serve the effect of making any existing license uneconomic, and therefore you wind up with none. They're going to look to an applicant as a person of good character, that they have the financial means to run a reasonable trial period to see if the service can be successful. They're going to look for a testimonial from potential customers and businesses that they would support it. So I don't know that the city has any role in there. If an application for a new license is made, there is a referral to the municipality telling you who the individual is and what their plans for service are, how many cars they would employ, etc. And that would come to council for comment. And council could request further information or support or indicate non-support for an application for a new license.
Can I just follow up on that, Mr. Chabot, with respect to the taxi? Because not in this letter, but in following letters that we got, there is some concern, very serious concerns raised about the condition of the taxi services. Not only from a safety point of view, but also just from an appearance point of view and what's going on there. Do we not, as a city, have a role in that, in something stand like that?
I think there is an advocacy role. Certainly the things asked for, the three solutions, a review of previous complaints or offenses under the passenger transportation regulations, an inspection and audit of the taxi license, and the release of an additional taxi license all seem to be beyond the purview of the council, but they'd certainly be items that council would be concerned about. As council may recall, we recently implemented a chauffeur permit system with the intention of improving the quality of the taxi service in the community. Could you go so far as to, I don't know how far you could go in terms of regulating the quality of the vehicles used? They have to pass an inspection to be able to haul folks on a commercial license on a passenger-directed trip. But I don't know that we could go a whole lot beyond those commercial vehicle safety inspections. And if you pass them, you could
suggest that this letter be sent to staff to look at, to respond with all the things that we are doing. I think that if there's areas that council decision is needed, then it should come back. But I think there's too many items on here to just go through them one at a time, because some of them can be quite lengthy. Some of them are already a work in progress that are going to be easily answered, but I think a lot of this can be dealt with at the staff level. And I'm looking at the newest degree in the room that can handle this quite. Do we need a motion to defer the staff?
So that's my motion, Your Worship.
Councilor Nixon, seconded by Councilor Duke. Any more discussion on the motion? And I'm assuming that where input from council is needed, that staff would come back to us to look at areas that we need more input for. Do you have a comment?
Yes, Your Worship, just a comment. There is a lot of good input in this letter, and I really like the intersection right out here being looked at at 2nd and Mackenzie.
And there's some traffic safety issues here that the USMP should go through. And that's why I think having it vetted by staff and agencies is the appropriate way. And I agree, just like every input that we get from the Chamber of Commerce, it's well thought out and is going to work towards making the world sort of a better place. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carried. So we're up to jump over to
See. Sorry, go ahead. Again, I think this is something that, there are some comments that staff may find useful or may have responses to, or maybe they're in the midst of doing. And, it probably would be worthwhile to, again, refer it to staff to somehow come back if there's some reason to bring it back to council or to respond in some fashion.
Motion by Councilor Burley, seconded by Councilor English. Discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Item D.
I am going to, Your Worship, I'm going to declare conflict on item D.
Any other reasons because of advertising relationship? Any comments or questions?
What I would like to know from staff, and they may be able to answer quite quickly, is there something that we can do as a city? I mean, I understand where people are coming from with respect to the taxi service and the condition of the taxi service. It's a reflection on our city, and I've heard numerous concerns about people who come in and are concerned about taking the taxi, not only from a safety point of view, but also from a condition point of view, a timing point of view, all of the issues that have been raised there. The objective here is not to complain for the sake of complaining, but simply to make Revelstoke a better place. And I think this is one of those things that the Accommodation Association has taken the trouble to write a letter to us outlining the concerns that they've heard, and I think we should find out what can we do about it.
Well, I think it brings up a real fundamental question is that, what is our role? And I think that we should be careful. This almost seems, one is that I think that Mr. Chabot talked about earlier, that the taxi industry, if I'm not mistaken, is a lot more deregulated than ever was, and people can be applying for another license. But I don't want to, we're not the Better Business Bureau, and we're not the agency that regulates the taxi industry. And I think it's more appropriate for this to go, because I don't like the idea of us debating around the table the quality of service that a business provides or doesn't provide, because it's opening up a whole new dimension to being on council that concerns me, and that's the whole private, free enterprise market. And I think, I don't know if this letter has been sent to the taxi company, but that's what should be. I mean, this is now a public document, it's out in public. And I think that it should be forwarded on to the company, saying that there's concerns from the business community that, you know, if an agency that regulates the taxi industry came to us and said, would you support, put a letter of support for another taxi company? And I would say, yeah, we would. I would. It's a free enterprise system. If somebody wants to get a license and open up a business, we would encourage that. Because competition is good. But again, I don't want to get into being a decision maker over a level of service that private businesses provide.
Can we then respond to the Tourism Bureau and Mr. Nielsen and tell him exactly that and say, listen, we do not think it's our role, but on the other hand, if you do have concerns, we invite you to raise them with the board or the regulatory board that deals with them or with the taxi company itself, you know?
I think, well, yeah, I think that's appropriate response. And I don't know if it's up to us to be ordering this to the taxi company, but they should be sending it to the taxi company. And I think I heard the comments earlier that the industry is more deregulated and anybody can be applying for a taxi license if they so desire, and more power to them. So, do we need a motion for that direction?
A motion to send the letter that Councillor Dodds mentioned, I think, would be in order, Your Worship. And I guess I understand that there are folks thinking about making an application for another license, in which case it will be referred to the municipality with necessary documentation, and the council can comment on that at that time.
So, motion from Councilor Brothers, seconded by Councilor Nixon. Any more discussion?
I see this letter is bringing up an opportunity for some young entrepreneur.
Old entrepreneur.
Retiring. 7 days. We have a motion on the floor, Council. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
That's for the special license.
Staying awake.
Motion on the floor. All those in favor? Motion carries. We let our councilor back in. And where are we? Community common rules request for support. Do you want to get an action on this? Your Honor, views on the remove request for support.
Yeah, it sounds like good stuff. I don't know how it fits into a larger framework, so it might be worthwhile to refer it.
Seconded by Councilor Nixon. Discussion on this one. All in favor? Carried. We're going to read the library letter regarding town-related legislation.
Your Worship, this came up at the Library Board meeting. Letter to put forward to all communities when they're getting their policies ready and bylaws ready around marijuana. So please bear in mind.
Thank you. Other communications, anybody want to bring anything out of the Public Art Committee?
Your Worship, just on the Public Art minutes, just the Public Art Committee still understands that they are going to be putting public art into the roundabout down by the western to town. Was there a confliction with what the Tourism Committee thought about signage?
I think the Tourism Committee, if I remember correctly, was looking at is there an opportunity to do some art with, that would combine with signage. And so, and I believe that there was some dollar value put aside for wayfinding signage. $70,000, okay, so I think there's more to come, but I would
Okay.
staff to, maybe you could look into, see if those two are compatible with each other.
Mr. Le-
We did discuss the role of a member of the Tourism Advisory Committee on the Beautification Committee for public art. So when we get to that stage, our intent was to invite a representative to sit in on the process and talk so that they would be engaged from the
And I think that one of the things that we have to take into consideration is that a lot of times you see these art installations in lots of communities when they're an opportunity for people to pose and get pictures. Having one in the middle of the roundabout that encourages that is not a good idea. So that was brought up and talked about, and so that's got to be the basis for anything that we're doing. Mr. Wade, did you ever know that?
I just wanted to add a transplant from the Mile Outpost and the city of Dawson Creek in the middle of the intersection. That's a good consideration to be making.
Yeah. There's a video on the internet of the car going through the roundabout, like right through the center. And anyway, I don't think there's any other action required on that. Does anybody want to read about the Heritage Advisory Commission minutes of June 7th? Questions from media?
No.
Looking for a motion to go into camera pursuant to section 90.1 CPK 90.2 B2 Charter. Councilor English, Councilor Saul, all in favor, motion's carried.